Marty, you'll be keeping across it throughout the day. We'll come back with you again soon. A British beginning, Bushrangers wool, are now the biggest breeder of Wagyu in the world.
There are no shortages of tales when it comes to Australia's largest cattle company, marking a double century this year. Jacqui Huntington is joining us from AACo to talk about the unique history. Now, Jacqui, I'd love to say that you had humble beginnings, but let's be honest, 1 million acres, it's pretty significant.
Yeah, look, it's a lot, and you know, to be gifted that really showed the vision that that those early parts of the organisation had. You know, and it really came home to me seeing the actual charter live that was signed by King George IV. That really outlined the real beginnings of the company, and that's warehoused in the State Library at New South Wales.
Because that whole aim was to basically improve the merino flock, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's actually we were in sheep. We were originally about sheep, and cattle was sort of a secondary thing, more about feeding people. But the sheep were there to provide wool back to Britain for uniforms and clothing. So
your history's so fascinating that it's actually the subject of a PhD.
Yes, that's right. Penny Pemberton, that we've met through our connections to the ANU, where there's a huge amount of our books and records are archived. She actually has completed a PhD in our early history. It's fascinating. She's fascinating too.
Tell us about some of those colourful characters that have passed through the stations over the years. There's been rustlers, there's been bushrangers.
Yeah, bushrangers, you know, Captain Thunderbolt, and if you're in New South Wales, there's lots of references to Thunderbolt at the time, and his partner Marianne Bugg, who was a somewhat infamous female bushranger as well. But my favourite is Captain Starlight, which is Harry Redford, who was basically a cattle drover, and he first took cattle to one of our big properties now, Brunette Downs, back in 1883. But he actually stole 1,000 cattle from one of the other properties that he was working on and drove it 2,000 kilometres from Queensland down to South Australia. Got caught, but then they were so impressed by that feat that they let him off.
Oh, wow!
So he's quite resilient.
Like
person.
Credit where's credit's due.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
I wouldn't give it a go today though.
Yeah, fair enough. So wool, cattle, very much in the Wagyu space now.
Wagyu
Tell us about that evolution.
So look, that evolution, we've adapted in many ways over the 200 years, and the adaptation into Wagyu really started in 2006 when we purchased the West Home herd from Japan. It was the last genetics that were actually sent out of Japan at the time. And for us, it was really about balancing out our live cattle business with being more customer focused and being able to sort of create a more resilient business against the shocks that come from the live cattle movement. So, yeah, that's why we ended up in Wagyu.
We were just talking about, milestone birthdays. How do you celebrate a 30th or a 40th?
Lyndsey's got a 60th coming up.
Yeah, come on. How do you even celebrate 200 years?
Yeah, look, one of the biggest questions I get is, what's the actual birthday? And it's like, well, there's several moments in
Festival
time.
of AACo.
That's right. That and we all know what a festival's like. That really have marked the establishment of the company. But then also our arrival in Australia actually didn't happen until late 1825. So we'll keep celebrating in 1825, and then in 2025, and also in 2026 when the company really established its roots in Stroud in New South Wales. So.
How good. Jacqui Huntington, thank you so much for your time on BeefTV. Well, let's take a bit of a look